What's going on, Elevation Nation? We are back with another conversation with a new elevator, Peter Flores, the founder and president of Juan Please Drink Company, introduced by his fellow employee slash elevator builder, Noah Suskin. So we're really pumped, Peter, to welcome you to the nation and have a conversation about what's been going on, building your first business, as well as your mindset that you bring to each and every day. Welcome to the pod, man. How's it going?
Thanks, Parker and Sam for having me, and the Elevation Nation for letting us have a nice, beautiful conversation today. I think for me, what I'm excited most about is I've had a long career in a lot of different industries, and I'm excited to pick and choose which one of those pieces has helped me get to where I am right now.
I think I'm obviously very excited to get into your journey and did some research on how you ended up where you are now, Peter, and super impressive. But I wanted you to know in doing that research, you inspired me because Parker and I, we're still in, our first jobs out of college, Big Four consulting, have been there since we graduated and have been building Elevation Nation on the side. And sometimes as you continue on your career path, especially in our community with Elevation Nation, we have a ton of entrepreneurs on, and we have the comparison game a lot of like, well, why aren't we at that point yet? Why aren't we getting investors? Why aren't we full time on this? And I think you had a really unique journey to how you got to where you are today. And each step took a certain amount of time, but led you exactly to where you needed to be in this moment. And so you, sir, have restored my faith in like Parker and I are exactly where we need to be right now. Keep on pushing, keep on grinding, and things will all sort itself out as we get there. So thank you for that. I'd love to kind of throw it back a little bit then and hear, obviously we know who you are, but a little bit of an elevator pitch on who you are and how you got to Juan Please.
Sure. Yeah. So interesting. I've had a meandering life, and maybe that's not the right word, but the path has been meandering. It's had some purpose, but it's definitely had a lot of tributaries to eventually get to, the final body of water, if I can use that metaphor to where we are now. Native New Yorker, grew up early part of my life on 14th Street between 7th and 8th. Um, for another pod, we can talk about the actual upbringing and childhood, but to say the least, it wasn't a traditional one. And then I moved to New Jersey, spent my formative years in high school in Bayonne and Jersey City, and I went to a Catholic high school in New Jersey. My path came back to New York. I went to NYU. I went to the Stern School of Business. Shout out to the Violets. Shout out to the Bobcats. If you didn't know what their mascot was, they're a Bobcat. We are Bobcats.
Had
So I
no
think,
idea, just so you know. Had no idea
yeah,
about
yeah,
that. I
yeah.
didn't
So
even
the
know
NYU
NYU had
Violet,
sports teams.
sure, D3, which is still college sports. Okay.
Fair
Um,
enough.
women's champions this year, national
Okay.
champions D3. Shout out to the Bobcats, the women's team. Yeah, like here's the thing about growing up on the East Coast. It's pretty international, right? Like you grow up on the East Coast, you kind of know a lot about a lot before you have to interact with a lot. So and back to your point, Sam, too, about where you're supposed to be. I just want to make sure everyone understands that the starting points are all different, right? Everyone's origin point, everyone's story is so different. Um, I may have had things that other people didn't have, and I definitely had didn't have things that other people had, right? But you kind of gauge that as you go. So the reason I kind of say that is because NYU and college in the city, it's a very, very rare, unique experience. You're immediately thrust into a world where everyone's the coolest person on the block, everyone's got the most money already, everyone dresses amazing, and you're just like this 18-year-old kid who's like wearing PJs to economics class, and you're like, man, I gotta step my game up immediately, right? Like game up immediately. There was no opportunity to sort of uh slow roll your way into what you thought your life was going to be. And I think that's a contributing factor to why I might have gone through a couple different paths, because I felt the pressure of trying to figure it out ASAP. And well, maybe I was a little good at this, so if I'm a little good at that, I'm probably a master at that. And that wasn't always true. Yeah, so I thought that's kind of where the whole life of where I'm going started. New York City, 2002 to 2006. Let me tell you, I'm 41 years old. I just turned 41. New York City from 2002 to 2006. Nightlife, food, no phone cameras out. It was a time.
What was one thing that like made it like absolutely a incredible time to be in New York City? I live in New York City now. I imagine it's very, very different than when it was in 2006.
Yeah, I would say that the coolest part about living in New York City for that time, I'm gonna bring it to nightlife and when you're going out and having fun, the it did not matter who you were as long as you were on a first name basis with a doorman. You were in a club, you were in a bar, you were in the hottest parties. You did not need to have any social status except be on a first name basis with the guy who ran the door. It's definitely not like that anymore.
Hmm. Okay, so you go to college,
Yeah.
and to be honest, I love what you said about the pressure. You get onto this campus, you see all these incredible other smart, driven people, and you're like, wow, I got to step up my game. I mean, I felt that so much at University of Maryland too. I got to step up my game. I got to get better grades. I got to become a leader in anywhere that I find myself going. And then you graduate and you think you got it all figured out. You've like climbed that status ladder and then you're at the bottom again and you're like, shit, let's go. It's hard. So you graduate and then you didn't just jump into Juan Please. You said you had many experiences. Walk us through quickly like what some of those experiences were.
Yeah, I'm glad you cursed because I held myself back a couple times. So I'm glad you
I
gave
mean,
me the
come
green
on,
light
man.
on that.
We're New Yorkers here. Like, come on.
We're we're New York. My dad and brother were New York City police officers. Like the dinner table had more F bombs than the word the. But I digress a little bit. Back to your question. Back to your question. So here's the thing, right? Like, not that there was imposter syndrome back then, because from a whether it was on paper in the street or in any conversations, I felt I was just as smart as everybody else. But I hadn't really had much formal like mathematical school training in high school. So like I'm in CERN business school and I'm against statistics, finance majors, and I'm one of the only guys at the time that didn't major in finance. Like that was almost like an unspoken rule to major in finance and then you'd minor in something else or double major. I majored in marketing and minored in psychology and took film classes at Tisch. And I was kind of a different animal at that school, which, you know what, gift and a curse, right? I set myself apart, but I also, did not come out with the greatest GPA. So I actually didn't have a job lined up out of college. So a lot of my colleagues were at McKinsey, they were at Lehman Brothers, like height 2006, right before the madness came, getting high paying jobs. I'm not going to call any of them out right now, those dudes. But yeah, they kind of set a standard, and then my family was like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm kind of just trying to figure it out. I bartended at the Soho Grand Hotel coming out of college, no job, no formal job coming out of NYU, which is ballsy and risky. But I just didn't feel like there was something there for me yet, and I actually became a high school teacher for 2 years. I taught freshman high school science at the high school that I graduated from, Marist High School. Shout RIP, they knocked it down, but shout out to Marist High School in New Jersey. Don't get me into Catholic schools. Can't Catholic schools around the country are just dropping like flies from a funding perspective, but different pot. Um, and so I decided to tell myself, hey, I feel like teaching's a good calling for me. I felt like I could connect to the students. I had a very amazing time and learning experience for myself. I learned as much from the students as I'm sure they learned from me over 2 years to kind of right my ship. If teachers were paid a lot more, I was getting paid like, this is 2007, 2008. I was getting paid $35,000 a year in 2007, 2008, and I was happy. If that money was more money, if that was triple the money, I probably could have done it for the rest of my life. But the grandeur and the grandeur of the world and my creative juices started flowing, and I told myself, hey, I could always come back to teach. Let me give everything else a shot. I started directing some shoe commercials, freelancing, directing shoe commercials and some short form digital docs. This is like 2008, 2009, 2010, before what we see what a videographer is, right? A videographer right now is all encompassing. They shoot weddings, they shoot brand promos, they're doing product spots, right? Back then, it was just online video, digital video, and I was sort of at the onset of that, and I told myself, well, I could surely be one of the greatest directors of cinema of all time. So guess what I did? I moved to Los Angeles, California, in 2011, and told myself, here I am. I'm gonna get there, and I'm gonna be the next Martin Scorsese for sure. And life has some other options for you sometimes, and some other directions. And it was an interesting 3, 4 years, 5 years of working in the movie industry and bartending and just seeing that world. And I told myself this may not actually be the path for me. So I came back to New York in 2015, a little beaten down, worn down from life in Los Angeles, and struggling for money and thinking, am I adequate enough? Back to the whole thing of just like a lot of other people who had gone right to the finance industry were cooking, right? My peers were cooking, and here I am trying to figure out, where all of my skills can coalesce to be an actual career. Um, and I got back to New York and decided to jump back into the corporate world. And I'll tell you something, whether I'm fit for the corporate world or not, everyone's got to experience it, I think, because it'll tell you a lot about yourself. It'll tell you a lot about yourself, and the because I'm going back on some tangents here, and please, you guys jump in whenever you want. I could speak forever.
I like the
That will
storytelling.
not
I've been trying to, but I'm like, damn, I want to know what happens next. Keep going. You're good.
that will not be a problem for me to continue talking. But the I decided I was at a crossroads. Do I go back to school and become a history teacher slash maybe eventually be a professor? Because for me, if right now, if Juan please were to either go gangbusters or die, right? And I was able to just restart the world and press the button, the Men in Black thing, and start all over again, I think I'd want to be a history professor at some small college and just like
Hell
be
yeah.
that guy.
What are you teaching?
I just enjoy it. Doesn't feel like work. Um, anyway, but then I was like, I need some money too. I'm like, 30 years old, not really figuring out what's going on. I answered a couple of random listings for some corporate marketing jobs. I told myself I paid for the sheepskin at NYU with a marketing degree. Maybe I should put that to use. And I got into the corporate world in 2016. Spent some really great years at a bunch of different online publishers, from WebMD to Vice to CNET. We'll get back to Vice because that's where the Juan Please origin story begins. But that's the meandering path that I'm telling you, right? From high school teacher to film and television across the country, working on major studio films, to am I going to be a history teacher? To then telling myself, all right, I'll get a $75,000 marketing job, right, at an online publisher and grind it out, to 8 years later starting an alcohol brand. But the only reason that I'm able to start that alcohol brand, to bring this all back, is because I figured out every single piece of the puzzle beforehand of what I was good at, and those skills formed together like Thanos's hand for me. And I'm not saying this is going to guarantee success. What I'm saying, for me to feel like I can go after something, quit a job, put it all on the line, is because this industry, the way the dynamics of the alcohol industry work, and the personal relationships between the retailer and then back to the marketing strategy and then the day-to-day business administration, I'm kind of able to do a little bit of all of that, and then really delegate to the experts in those fields, and just be able to steer their ship. And it's been a wholeheartedly gratifying experience, with some personal, emotional, private moments to tell myself, hey, I think whether this goes good or bad, you're going to be able to go to sleep and wake up every morning with a lot of energy.
Hell yeah.
It's truly an incredible path. To your point, I'm going to use your words, meandering, right, a little bit. But
Yeah.
I think I give you a lot of credit because most people don't jump. They don't take risks. They don't try things. I I watched a movie this weekend, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Peter, but tons of different timelines, tons of different scenarios of what your life could have turned out like. And obviously there are a ton of takeaways that I had from that movie, but one of them was, damn, I wish Sam Panich could have had 12 different lives that he could just test out. Because I would have loved to, I was a business major, but I would have loved to have tried film or philosophy or tried something. And this is just in college, right? What would those paths have looked like for me? And I think far too often in our society, whether it's societal pressure, pressure from our parents, where we grew up. I mean, you said your dad and brother were cops. Like, I imagine at some point they were like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. Like, come join us, right? And I think families tend to influence where you go and what you end up doing. Like, I'm a consultant. My dad was a consultant, right? And this is what I saw him doing. And so it's what I knew and I felt comfortable. So I did it. And I think many people fall into this life that they almost have to back into because it's the most comfortable of the uncomfortable situations. Becoming an adult is scary regardless of what you do. But if you can do it when other people have kind of done that similar path, it's like, all right, I'm good. Whereas you were like, let me try to figure out some different things and what I'm passionate about. And so I give you a lot of credit to take some of those risks. It's not easy, and it certainly seems like it's working out for you.
Yeah, to respond to that, thanks for that the quick insight from you and how that is relatable on your end. I want to do a quick PSA real quick to higher education. Okay, there's been a lot of dogging college and universities and I'm just going to keep it at, while not everybody needs college, college is not a waste. I think when you go to college, it's one of those things that you leap, right? You jump. You're going in there and you're like, I have no idea what this is going to be like. The movies show it this way, real life shows it this way, and it falls somewhere in between. And it's really a boot camp on life. It's a boot camp on life and relationships and uh I would hope one day it becomes a place where the affordability of it goes down because it gives an opportunity for it to be a more equal-footed arena for people to figure out what they want to do instead of be forced to think about what they want to do.
There's such a hate right now. Or not hate, like there's a lot of, to your point, like narrative around like, oh, you don't need to go to college. You like college is a waste of money. Obviously college is very expensive. What your ROI on college is not like it's low. I completely agree. I go back and forth. It's like, why didn't I just like go get a technical skill and then I can, market myself as someone who knows this specific skill really well? I didn't need to go to college for that, but I completely agree. It's a formative years in someone's life. You're making that jump away from your parents, but also I meet people like Sam and some of my best friends. Talk about network, learning how to interact with new people. To your point, seeing that there's a bigger world. I mean, I went to a small private school as well, right? Small, 200 kids in the whole school. Like, you walk outside that bubble and you're like, damn, there's a whole nother level to this. And then you leave school and you're like, wow, there's a whole nother level to this. And so I'm sure for you, Peter, when you were at Vice and I don't know the origin story of Juan, please, but when did you start thinking, wow, I got to take my journey to a whole nother level?
Yeah, it's a great segue. I like your style. Uh, Vice, dream job. I was part of the 2015 to 2017-ish Vice Stan fan club where they did no wrong, right? All their content was exactly the content that I wanted to consume. They also found that in between gray area of the legacy media where, they were able to have phone calls with cartel members and get that access and just report on the stories in between the stories. And I'm just like, that's kind of where we're going, and I think that's interesting to me. So, dream job when I landed it. I got there, I would say, a little too late in their if we're talking about peak, but the creative juices were still there. I still felt that they had a pulse on some things that other publishers didn't. And I was working in the alcohol sponsorships component And a couple of the bigger alcohol portfolios and holding companies, I saw where their money was going. Their money was going to low calorie, low sugar, non-carbonated, spirit-based beverages, right? They were just pumping money into that. And I would see that coming a year ahead of their campaigns, right? So I had that back room, backdoor kind of insight um, into that, right? And it was, in my head, I'm like, well, can't wait for that to explode. I'm into that because I wasn't really into the carbonated White Claw drinks. Not that was never really for me. I was a big avid tequila drinker. I'm pretty much exclusively a tequila Negroni drinker when I choose my beverages of choice, my libations. But I told myself, well, if this is where the industry is going, right? My other favorite non-alc drink is an Arnold Palmer. Somebody's clearly going to marry those together for sure. If you're having John Daly's for your whole life, which for those who don't know, that's an Arnold Palmer spiked with vodka. That's been around for a decade, 15 years maybe. And as an avid tequila drinker for the last 5 to 6 years, I've been replacing it with tequila just in my house. Arizona Arnold Palmer jug that my mom brings over and the tequila, and I would just combine them, and that's my drink. And Noah Suskin, your schoolmate, your friend, he had interned for me a couple years back, and I told myself, if I ever try something, if I ever take a leap, that kid has some juice, and he's gonna be my first phone call. Uh, and be that as it may, the way the world works, he called me. He wanted to catch up. He was talking about Vice. I said, listen, I'm actually going to be leaving Vice. I got an idea to do something. He's like, well, what's your idea? And here I am. And I gave him the 30-minute pitch. And at the end of the pitch, he's like, all right, I'm in. And I'm like, whoa, 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 take it easy, take it easy. Like, this is my first time telling anybody about the idea, really, right? I said, listen, you live in California, I live in New York, let me figure it out. He's like, I'll move back on Monday. And I'm like, let's calm down. I love the enthusiasm, but for me to say that out loud, right? In your head, great ideas all the time. You know how many great ideas this head has had over 20 years? Too many. And then when you say it out loud and then you get a little bit of feedback that's in a positive direction and some enthusiasm, that shit goes a long way.
That
Like here,
helps. That helps.
startups, startups, alcohol brands. Now, this is me not knocking tech companies and all that. Listen, you put in a lot of hours, right? But a lot of that shit happens in the cloud. A lot of that happens on your computer. When you have an alcohol business, you got the daytime biz dev admin, and then you got to be outside. Like you have to be at the bar, you have to be at events, you gotta talk. It's a face to face business. So 9 to 5, 5 to midnight, that's our days, right? So to have somebody give you that energy and be young legs, I'm almost 16 years older than him, 15 years older than him. I need some young legs too to get this to work. And that was the conversation. And I said, all right, give me a second. Let me actually bake this out to be, you tell yourself all these ideas, and I'll give the nation some positive insight from this old man over here. Ideas are going to be aplenty. Ideas, because if you have that mindset of being a founder, starter, all that stuff, every time you encounter white space or a problem that can be solved in your day to day, you could be like, I know how to fix that. I know how to fix that. I know how to fix that. Even if you've never worked in that industry, you're identifying problems that need to be fixed. So you have all those ideas. This didn't become an actual tangible business until I brought on Noah and our other two founders, who are also Maryland boys. Um, that it didn't become a company until then because they're really the engines of our business. They're the ones that move things forward from idea to execution. There's a lot of annoying, tedious work that needs to be done from Juan Please as an idea to Juan Please being cracked open at a barbecue and drinking. And if you don't have a team or if you can't do that, none of your ideas are going to work.
It's all the team.
I found
Go
a,
ahead,
a
Sam.
common thread, Peter, that I don't know if you've picked up on, but you mentioned that not if, but But when Juan Please takes off, goes gangbusters, you sell this thing, you'd go back to teaching. It sounds like your enthusiasm and your energy and your love is when you have a team and folks you can mentor and grow with. And, you know, even just your enthusiasm, like this kid's got juice. A lot of people that work with others, like they don't see that potential in others. They don't want to coach them up. They don't want to bring them to that level. But I can just tell with how you talk about Sus and some of the other boys, right? That's what brings you a lot of joy, which to me, I know you want to go back to teaching, but I would argue, I think you're doing it right now, man.
That's thank you for that. It's hard to sometimes give your own self-diagnostics of these things, and podcasts and interviews, or all this is just so good. There's an open dialogue. I might be more open with you than I am with my family. So feel free to analyze away. But yeah, it's for me, and I don't give a shit if this sounds righteous or magnanimous. I really don't give a shit. I only care about other people winning on my team, as long as it's also my team, so I'm winning as well. I don't want to, but for me, it's always been a team thing. On the basketball court, I would so much more enjoy having 10 assists than 30 points. And Suss will tell you that. The extra pass sometimes is a little too much. And again, you can always apply these things back, where the extra pass sometimes might be the wrong play. So you have to be very careful when you're running an organization and a team, giving too much away and giving too much delegation. There's a delicate balance and a dance there. But I think you hit it right on the head. I really enjoy, and what makes it easy, I think, for not only my internal team to work with me, but when we work with our vendors and our clients, I think there's a genuine understanding that we show that we're there for the mutual benefit of everybody and everybody involved. And I hope to keep that dynamic. You can't always guarantee that that's going to be there. But right now, that's one of our team mottos, is just, there's no reason everyone can't win. It's there's a we tell ourselves this when they're like, oh, well, what if a competitor comes in, and one of the bigger, like an Anheuser-Busch comes in with a tequila Arnold Palmer. Because, by the way, flash alert, breaking, we're still the only tequila Arnold Palmer in a can on the planet. So kudos to us for starting that lane. And
Can I ask a dumb question? I'm just
go.
curious. Arnold Palmer, is that trademarked? Like, do you have to say lemonade iced tea mix on your branding, or is it open source?
Right. I only say Arnold Palmer out loud with words.
Got it. Okay.
On paper, we cannot write that, but it's just the easiest way to describe what our
fair.
drink is. It's a tequila Arnold Palmer, but it's really a tequila mixed with lemonade and iced tea. So it's tequila half and half. Half and half isn't, that isn't trademarked, but that doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
No, that's so fair.
And when I
was
think
just
of half
curious.
and half, I'm thinking coffee too. In some
Coffee, or
way.
it's not always a one-to-one relationship that you're thinking about an Arnold Palmer, but yeah, we're the first ones to ever do it. So when the question always comes up, what happens when one of the big boys comes in, and I'm like, I can't wait. Thank God, right? We're excited. Industry's fueled by competition, right? That'll step our game up. And then so that's lowercase a is, that validates that we have a real lane, right? And I'm sure it's coming. A lot of people also ask, well, why don't you think that nobody's ever done it before? How come you guys are the first ones? And it's just like, there's only so many time and resources that, like, I say the same thing about aliens. Don't get me onto the aliens rant either. When people are like, well, why haven't we seen one? And are like, why would we be the first? And I'm like, sometimes all the variables that are needed to create life and all the variables that are needed to create a bomb ass drink don't happen all the time until it happens. I didn't expect an alien correlation today, but that one was nice. We should flag that for the clip. Flag that for the clip. Yeah. So back to the idea of competition, and why we're excited about it is also, like, secret of the trade. If another brand comes in that has a lot more money and is a lot more established, they're going to pour a bunch of money into what a tequila Arnold Palmer is, right? So people are going to start walking into stores and be like, you know what? I want to try tequila Arnold Palmer. Oh, they don't have blank, but they have Juan, please. Great. It's the same shit, right? That's what other people are so scared about competition. And for us, we can't wait. We're so excited.
That's
And
awesome.
that kind of fuels everything.
I mean, that's why you find a McDonald's not alone on the off the exit of the highway. You find a McDonald's with a Wendy's with a Burger King with a Taco Bell with, like, because they're all biting and chewing off of each other. And if it was just one McDonald's, it's probably not a location where people are going for food. Who knows? But if they can bite off a little bit of that market, man, you're winning in some sense. So, Peter, tell me, you're 15, 16 months into this thing since you guys launched. Where are we at now, and where do you want to be in a year?
Sure. Great call. We're at a really amazing milestone. Um, it took us a year to sell X number of cases, right? Cases is how that's the metric in our space. Um, in the month of May, we sold the same amount of cases that it took us to sell in a year. So hockey stick has happened, the turn has happened. And now these are relative numbers. I'm not saying that just because that happened means that this is a success. I'm saying there's markers, right? There's markers, there's milestones that keep telling you, all right, move on to the next step. Spend a little bit more money, get some investors, right? You have to hit some milestones to make sure that the train is still going in the right direction. So this is a big one for us, and that comes on the heels of a lot of the grassroots work that we've done over the first year. It's the attention to detail with our clients and consumers that we pay on time, we're always there, and so they keep reordering, right? We got distribution in the states of Massachusetts and New Jersey. What that means is we were self-distributing, self-selling for the first year, which is a testament unto itself, just to be able to stay alive and create enough noise. Four guys in their mom's Nissan Sentra driving around, right, trying to sell some alcohol. And now we have full distribution partners in two of the major states for ready to drink cocktails. And that changed our universe from 100 accounts to thousands of accounts. We still got to do the grind it out, scrappy work, but the stadium has gotten bigger. The arena of where we can play, and we're not in the minor leagues anymore. Um,
Well, you're definitely not in the
so
minor leagues because, right, you're in professional soccer. I see you all the time at what? It's
that's a great
Red Bull
transition,
Arena.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the timing. We're sort of embargoed for a second on what I
Okay.
can say, but you know what? This isn't
I mean, it's in
this.
the past, but it happened.
Well, I actually, you know what? I did sign some paperwork today, but regardless, we, it's a great transition to kind of what I wanted to talk about in taking some big leaps, even though you're a startup, right? Because our brand, unfortunately, and fortunately, if depending on how you look at it, our biggest competitors are the biggest brands on the planet, right? Some of the biggest brands, White Claw, High Noon, Surfside, Sun Cruiser. They're not necessarily direct competitors, but that's the space that we're in, and their pockets and war chest and exposure and just strategical resources are leaps and bounds above ours. But it's just we need to keep up with that, right? Or we need to be able to play in a zone that differentiates us enough from that pack, but still keeps us relevant. And one of the first things that we did was to advertise on the New Jersey Transit Path subway system, right? And that's where we got some really amazing feedback and traction. Our logo was getting recognized. I'd be walking into bars and restaurants, and people would point and say, "Oh, you're the ones advertising on the path," right? And that felt really, really uh, um,
I do want to say, Peter,
satisfying
your
in this.
marketing degree is certainly going to use because your guys' branding, your website, the color scheme. I'm in the design world. Like, you guys crush it from being memorable on a can, which is hard to do with how many competitors there are all around,
Recall.
beach
It's all
going
about
and, sunshine. It's like you guys stand out.
yeah. Marketing is recall, and um, another nugget. Another nugget here is when we started. I told myself, everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people can make anybody buy something once. How do I make them buy it twice? Right? How do I make you, the consumer, buy it twice? Because then I have a business. Other than that, I just have an entity that does transactions, right? A business is how do I make it buy, how do I make you a customer for an extended period of time? And that means you have to buy it twice in my world, right? You don't just buy one can, you have to buy it again. And I'll be walking around or driving around, and the things that consistently pop in my head is always like, who's buying our product? When are they buying it? Who's buying our product? When are they buying it? That way I'm always thinking about how do I get you to buy it twice? And some of that is from the marketing recall. And just like if I can recognize your brand, that's 50% of the battle. So when it's there, it's there. And we took that leap on the train system and through that the train advertising, which for a startup brand, out of home advertising is very rare. The I would say the experts and the consensus is dump all your money into social, make sure you're always top of mind online. I really it could be our downfall. I just don't think it is, but I'm looking at it a different way, and I'm going back to Mad Men and the 60s and 70s and the memory of a really good slogan and the memory of a really good branding experience and how that lasts through a generation of families, right? Like it's if I saw something on the path that I thought was funny and I showed my dad and my dad thought it was my funny and my dad showed it to his colleague at work, I've now gone across three different branches, right? Well, only one person is the original person who saw the ad, right? So to me, that's kind of how we're looking at this, and the New York Red Bulls Soccer Association team at part of the MLS, they saw that ad on the train and they called us up and they were like, "Who the fuck are you guys? Right? Like, who the fuck is this brand? You need to tell me about it." Shout to my boys at the Red Bulls. They're fantastic. You know who you are. And we went through some negotiations over a couple months, and we told ourselves there's a couple of pillars here. No cans own soccer in the US. There's not, you don't, when you think soccer, you don't think of a canned beverage. That's a wide open arena, right? It's there for the taking. Secondarily, the US is hosting the World Cup next year. We're also hosting the Club World Cup this summer. The next 18 months in the US, there's going to be more soccer played here than in the last 20 years. Third, demographic of soccer, Hispanic primarily, especially in the Northeast. The New York Red Bulls, their demographic is that. These are just three pieces that whole pack that I was telling you about, the High Noons, the Trulies, all them, they're playing in a different space while we're still competing in the same. We're deciding to put our perspective, dollars, and angle into an area where we can own wholeheartedly.
That sounds so exciting, first of all, and I'm sure you're
And
ready.
expensive.
And
And
expensive,
expensive.
and a lot of work, and a lot of time, and effort, and 25 Noah Suskins, and
Yep.
so much more. But like that is what elevating is all about. That you're inspired by the journey that not only you're creating for yourself, Peter, but what you're building with Juan Please. And then you've been able to inspire that mission not only into the people who you partner with, but the vendors, the clients, and then even me and Sam, we're sitting here. I'm like, damn, I need a new Elevation Nation sweatshirt like that Juan Please sweatshirt. Like that thing is dope.
It's nice, right?
Like that,
It's dope.
yeah, it's incredible. So like, I find it awesome. It's incredible. I mean, I can see the mindset and how you've taken your experience and you're just like, you know what? This is my one chance. Let's just freaking do this the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I want to make sure I communicate to everyone listening and to you guys is that there's always I'm in a perpetual state of telling myself that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, right? I think that's an important thing to tell myself consistently is that whatever I just said, forget about it, whether it's right or wrong, because in 5 seconds, the world might change in a way that what you just said doesn't matter, right? So I'm always ready to learn, ready to have somebody tell me, no, that's not right. And I'll go, okay, yeah, maybe what I just said is absolutely wrong. But what that does for me is I think it pulls out the and I hate using meme fucking language. I'm sorry, but like it takes you out of the main character mindset where I read something on LinkedIn earlier from a colleague. Shout out to Darren McGee. I want to make sure I cite my sources. He said something really insightful that while I knew, I just never really said it. Clients are never on our time. The clients are going to come back around on their time. And what he said was, your business is going to depend on how you take their time at that moment as like, how do you react to when they're ready? I'll tell you this: there'll be times where I'll go to a bar and and I'll be like, "Hey, we're trying to work out them taking Juan please in." Months will go by, and then all of a sudden I'll get an email, phone call, a text, or whatever. Hey, can you bring product tomorrow? And I may be slammed tomorrow. If I don't get it there to them tomorrow, all those 8 months I've been waiting might be for nothing. So you have to be able to react in that time period. For me, well, the physical part about this job is something that I want to stress, and why having young legs and having a team that's able to be everywhere. There's a physical aspect to this. I went to a dinner last night, which was amazing. A bunch of founders in New York City from the CPG industry space, and I didn't want to go. I was laying on my couch, and I was like, I don't want to go. I'm so exhausted. But I remembered that we just locked in an account in Boston because a conversation happened 7 months ago on a night that I didn't want to also go out, but then I did, and I had a random conversation that led to an account in Boston. So if you can't throw that into your mind and say, when you don't want to, it's like going to the gym. If you don't want to go, you got to go. And your comfort in that time is not the most important thing. You have to be able to be uncomfortable. Getting up last night and taking the train, the light rail, then the train to Chelsea, and then taking it back and getting home at 11 was completely worth it because I got up and I went.
We hear time and time again stories like that. And I just want to say, Noah Suskin, I know you're listening. We're talking about those young legs. I hope you're hitting the gym, man, and getting those squats in, because you're carrying a lot of cases on your back. I know Peter's grateful. We're excited to see how you guys grow. And I think, Peter, you exuded a lot of mental fortitude last night. And that's something Parker and I preach. We think that is the missing piece that entrepreneurs, leaders, the next generation of people that are movers and shakers have, which is knowing who you are at your core, yourself, your vision of where you want to go and what fuels you. And you certainly have that. You're inspiring a team and inspiring us to have more of that. And so I want to finish with this. It's something that unites all our elevators together. Every single person that comes on the podcast and joins the nation, as well as folks that we speak to across the country, we help them craft their own mental motto, a phrase that embodies who they are at their core. So Peter Flores, what is your mental motto?
It's not I didn't actually create it. I don't know who created it, but I heard it from somewhere, but it is mine because it's the only way that I've been living. And the motto is, you either win or you learn.
Where did the lose go?
Well, that's the thing. You don't lose
I
because
agree.
because if
Love
you
that.
don't win, you're just gonna learn.
Mm.
And what that has also told me is to not live and die by every jump shot. A little basketball terminology. I used to live and die by every jump shot, and I'm starting to learn that not every crisis is a crisis, and that every crisis is either manageable or it's going to test you in a way that you haven't been tested before. But when it's your own business, and you got a lot riding on it, sometimes living and dying by the jump shot is the way you go. And I've just realized you either win or you learn.
Mm. What a great mindset. And Peter, I mean, I just want to thank you because you've provided such unique perspective and
I
advice
hope so.
to the nation. And I just feel fired up and jazzed up. It's a busy month for Elevation Nation. Sam and I are speaking all over the country. We got a lot of podcasts we're recording. And we're trying to push and push and push and trying to win or learn. And so I just want to thank you on behalf of Sam, myself, everyone in Elevation Nation. We're pumped to welcome you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was great. Thanks for being my sounding board, and someone to talk to about the ups, downs, lefts, and rights. And well, I hope we do it again. Maybe when when there's another milestone, bring us back.
I love it. All right, Elevation Nation, until next week. Peace. Pete, we got